everyone today to the first in our webinar series this spring called Food is Connection. And today's focus is on cultural food networks. And my name is Janelle Hatch, and I'm so pleased that you're all able to join us here today. So Food is Connection, our webinar series, it's brought to you by our Food Literacy Working Group, which is of the Good Food Network and CR Fair. And the series is inspired from the film called by the same name, Food is Connection, directed by Jumana and filmed by Emily. And if you're fortunate enough to have already seen this film, it's a wonderful, beautiful piece of work. And if not, I hope there will be further screenings. I know there's been screenings recently, so please do keep your eye on that. And there's a website there to learn more about the project. Just a few housekeeping tips before we move into our topic today. So I wanted to say a big thanks to Anna from CR Fair. She's behind the scenes today doing our technical support. So she's going to be keeping people on mute for the time being, just so that we can focus on our guest speakers for today. There is live captioning available. It is showing for me, so hopefully it's showing for others as well. And if you have any tech issues at all, please do put a note in the chat, and Anna will be monitoring there, as well as for questions. So we're going to go through, we have 4 wonderful guest speakers with us today, and we'll be going through talking to them. And as we're talking, if questions do pop into your mind, please do just put them in the chat, and then we will have some time for question and answer with our guests following the presentations today. Just a note, we will be recording this session because we want to be able to post it for those who weren't able to join us today so that they can view it afterwards. Okay, so this is the lineup for today. So this just shows you what we'll be covering in the next hour. And we always start by honoring the land on which we reside. And myself, I'm a white woman. I'm an uninvited guest on these lands. I live, work, and play on the lands of the Coast Salish peoples, more specifically, the lands of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples of the Songhees and Esquimalt Nation. And I know that these peoples have a deep-seated relationship with this land and have for many, many generations, and still do have this incredible connection with the land and the ways of the land and waters here. And this is so important when we're talking about food and food literacy, to start with this understanding and to want to know more as well. So I encourage all of you to continue your own education on how you came to be here and the lands on which now you reside. And if you're from elsewhere too, there is a map that does show the different Indigenous nations. So I encourage you, in learning more about the lands and waters, to go and look it up. And so this is just one option for you in doing that. So just briefly, who we are, bringing you this webinar series this spring. So as I mentioned, I've been coordinating the Food Literacy Working Group for a number of years now. And we're part of the Good Food Network and CR Fair. And together we come together as individuals and organizations, and it's all around food literacy across our region. And so this webinar, as I said, is the first in the series. And we will be having at least 2 more coming up over the next couple of months. So please do stay tuned for that. And this spring, we wanted to make it about connection and celebration, because food, we really feel, is about both of those things so strongly. And I feel like we're going to kick that off in such an important way today. So I now bring to you our wonderful guest speakers who are joining us today. I am so grateful to have with me today Ariel, Angela, Nina, and Rajan, who will be talking with today about food and cultural food networks. And we really do feel that food has so much power in our lives. It connects us across family, across community, across cultures, and it connects us to the land, as we were saying. And so today's session really is about a deep dive into the ways that food cultures weave through these networks and relationships, and the meaning that it brings to us each and every day. But before we get into talking to each of our lovely guests in more depth, thought we'd start it off with a fun little icebreaker today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, in no particular order, each of our guests here today. I'm going to say 2 words. Of course, everything's related to food and eating, and then get them to choose which one resonates with them most, which one off the top of their head in the moment means the most to them at this moment. So Ariel, would you like to start with our icebreaker today? So I'll start reading off these words. So are you able? Oh, great, you're off mute now. Wonderful. So here come the first 2 at you. Salt or pepper?
Pepper, as always.
Land or sea?
Land.
Okay. Cilantro or parsley?
That one is hard because I use them both. So let's say for now, for today, parsley.
Okay. Fish or chicken?
Fish, I think.
Okay. Cold or hot?
Cold, because I'm coming from the hot weather, so cold all the time. Yes.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Neither.
Straight up water.
Water.
Drink of choice? What would it be?
Wow, that's so hard. Let's say kombucha.
Oh, nice. Okay. And would you say sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Now, how about Angela?
Uh-oh, am I getting hard questions here?
No, the same ones. Same ones for you. So what about you? Salt or pepper?
I'd go for pepper as well.
Okay. Land or sea?
Definitely the sea.
Nice. Cilantro or parsley?
I would like to go with cilantro, though I don't. Unlike Ariel, I don't use a lot of these often. So, yeah.
Okay, fish or chicken?
Chicken. I know it goes against the first one I chose, but the thing is, I have a lot of chicken when I moved here to Canada recently. So it's just that, yeah.
Well, we'll say chicken of the sea.
Chicken of the sea. That works.
Sea.
Yeah.
Okay. Cold or hot?
Hot.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Definitely coffee. I'm a coffee person.
Sweet or salty?
For now, I'm gonna choose salty because we're talking
Okay.
about food, meals, and preparation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for playing with us.
Awesome.
And Nina and Rajan. I can't wait to see if you're both going to choose the same one or something different. So would you say salt or pepper?
Salt.
Pepper.
I love it. Land or sea?
Land.
Sea.
Cilantro or parsley?
Cilantro.
Okay. Fish or chicken?
Chicken.
Chicken.
Cold or hot?
Hot.
Hot.
Nice. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee.
All the way. And sweet or salty?
Salty.
Oh, nice. Some agreement there, some differences. So that was just a fun way to get us started on the whole food topic and how we can have similarities and differences in the things that we like in the way that we prepare food. So now I'd love to transition into diving deeper with each of our speakers today. And so I'll be asking a series of questions just to get the conversation going for each of our guests. And we'll have about 10 minutes with each one to learn a little bit more about connections with food and culture. So Ariel, you're up first for this one too. So if you could just please tell us a little bit about yourself to start.
Perfect. So thank you, Janelle. Hello, everyone. My name is Ariel Reyes Antuan, and I'm a newcomer from Cuba, from the eastern side of the country. That is very important for this conversation because my hometown, the name is Santiago de Cuba, and is one of the blackest cities in Cuba because of the immigration of people from Haiti, people from Jamaica, from all the Caribbean islands that, thanks to the slavery process, we are here today. So that was a beautiful journey for my ancestors to come to this land. Yeah, it was like food was always the way that we kept connected despite all this system of oppression that slavery, capitalism, colonialism were at the time, and that we are still, suffering all those consequences today. So I moved to Canada like 3 years ago. It's gonna be turn 4 in July. Yeah, my life in this land, I have to say that I'm so grateful for have the opportunity to be a guest and also to be in solidarity with indigenous people of this land, where I have the opportunity to work, play, engage, pray, meditate, and really feel the pain and as well the joy that of doing this kind of deep work, because I work at Iye Creative. So Iye Creative is a grassroots organization that really our focus is in reconnecting people back to the land and trying to start creating that framework where we disconnect ourselves from that scarcity mindset and we start tapping into abundance that is in this beautiful land, and we start redefining the art of living in community. So COVID have provided the opportunity to really demonstrate that we need to get better in the way we engage with each other, the way we respect our different culture that coexist in this beautiful land. And that's the work we do at Iye. So basically now we have like a free initiative that they are open. So we have the Palenque Plus boxes that basically we are engaging disenfranchised community members with the food that grows in this land. And also we have the Palenque Greens that basically is like a project where we empower and we educate community members about a vertical growing system using burlap sacks. So we create burlap sacks garden everywhere around the city. So we have a research project, and also we have like the Living Liberation project that basically is an storytelling project that is part of these beautiful initiatives. So basically that's Ariel. I'm an Afrofuturistic person. I'm always looking at the future while keeping myself grounded in the present. I love community. I love food. I love sharing. I love laughing. And I love the joy of life. That's why I'm here. And thanks for inviting me. And thanks for putting this together. I'd like to see more of these, events in the city, because it brings us together in order to really share who we are and how we relate and how we are moving forward together. So thank you for that.
Thank you. What an introduction. Wonderful. And you've done so much incredible work in such a short time of living here. Amazing.
Thank you.
I'm interested in hearing more about, are there ways of food sharing, growing, and celebrating within your culture or community that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, perfect. So my heritage is Haitian, Yoruba people. They are from the south of Nigeria, and the Bantu people, that is one of the biggest group that is from Central Africa to all the way down to South Africa. So when we talk about food, food is a cycle. Food is a way where we teach our kids, and we learn from the elders. But because of colonialism, and I was born in Cuba, where we have a different social economic system, like I learned from my core family. So let's say my mom, my dad, my grandma, and my uncles and my aunts. So I had like very difficult relationship to food at the beginning because of the crisis that we have in Cuba. So when I was a teenager in Cuba, we have a very deep crisis. The name is the spiritual period, where we didn't have access to a lot of like a nutritious food. So we were in survival. But I always remember with my grandma that she was born in Haiti, like there was a dish that is basically beans with dumplings that she always shared with me how she enjoyed and how that food was part of the culture back in Haiti. And I learned from her as well fufu. So it is a famous dish in the eastern part of Cuba that today is part of the Cuban culture, but I didn't know that fufu is a West African dish. So until I moved to this land. But I remember my mom and my grandma basically telling me and teaching me how to make fufu. Basically, it's plantains. So you boil the plantain, you smash them, and then you create a dressing that we call it mojo or mojito, that is parsley, garlic, salt, oil, and all spice. So in Cuba, all spice, that's why I'm a peppery person. All spice, we use it in every meal. So I think if I have to say the way that food for me means culture, means connection. It is about the preparation, the preservation, and even going out to buy the products that we need to make that food, and also sitting at the table. So in Cuba, and I will speak about just the eastern part because that's the where I spend my life the most. It's like when we go at the table, we don't speak, we just eat. And then if the food wasn't very well cooked, or if the cook was rushing like all the time, we blame the cook. So it is a way that we create that dynamic at the table, and always dessert. So the sweetness of the table is a dessert. We have many different desserts in Cuba, and yeah, I think my connection to food changed when I moved to Canada. So when I moved to Canada, I couldn't understand what to eat because the diet was totally different. So I had to learn how to eat the food that grows well in this land, and also how to separate myself from that food that really doesn't nurture my body, my mind, and spirit. Because in Cuba it is different. You have, even when in Cuba we have in the eastern part of Cuba, 80% of the food is imported. I didn't used to eat a lot of from the grocery store. We have just small, like street sellers that they sell all the produce that they produce. And also we have like some small markets where you can buy fresh produce. But here, because I was a newcomer, I didn't have the means at the beginning to really access to that local and locally grown food. So it took me a while to get adapted, and also to reconnect or to reestablish that connection to the food that I used to eat back in Cuba. And also then I have to adapt my palate to the new greens. Until after 2 years of being here, I really now I understand how to eat in this land. I understand what is the food that I used to eat back home that really nurture my spirit. And for example, kale, I really love kale. And in our household, we eat a lot of kale. And also I become like a plant-based. So I just have to redesign all the way I eat, the way I engage, the way I prepare, the way I buy, and the way I preserve the food. So just to answer that question, one state in Cuba, and then when I moved here, I have to change my whole diet. So yeah, that's the thing, I think.
And just one last question I think we have time for with you is, because you're so connected now with local food, what do you have anything that you would like to share with people that you wish they knew about local food and our local food system here?
Yeah, perfect. I think, in my opinion, it is difficult. It is difficult because, as we all know, COVID have shown us that we are living under a system of oppression that really push people that looks like us to the edges, and then what is available in our pocket, you need to really buy what you can buy with that. It doesn't mean that we, in our different diverse communities and all those communities that have been underserved for a long period of time, that we have access to the local food. Even when you go to the farmers market in the weekend, you see who are the people that really have access to that kind of food. If you go to Walmart, you will see a totally different demographic because it's accessible, right? So for me, the way I see and the way we are addressing that is just the fact that food is everything. So if you have an unhealthy community, you have an unhealthy economic system, you have kids that really cannot develop very well, and people that will be debuting with all this chronic disease at the very young age. So for me, we have to keep reconnecting people to the food that really grows well in this land, and we need to create like a supporting system for newcomers and immigrants and refugees to start like a detaching from the international agricultural business that basically has been creating that burden in our communities where we are getting sick. Like after 5 years of a newcomer, I remember this when working at Verts and talking to people. After 5 years, a newcomer arrives to Canada, their health is depleted completely. So, and it is because we don't have access to the food that grows in this land. And it is we know that food security is an income issue. But also there are policies that really, we have a lot of food banks, but we know that the food banks is the food that many of those privileged individuals don't want to consume. So that's left over for the people that is new in this land. So it's a very chaotic, and even it is a very not good system, but we need to start to reintegrate and even to reconnect our diverse communities to the food that goes to the land. That's why Palenque Rings and the Palenque Plus boxes are initiative, and I know that Verts and many settlement organizations, they are realizing all these situations, and they are really working towards to improve the way and the access that many of our communities have for need to access like a fresh locally grown food, so I don't have a complete answer. I just can say that we need to keep advocating, and we need to keep finding the resources to keep supporting communities to learn how we can keep developing our urban growing systems. And now that there are so many people involved into the food forest project, people really focusing in regenerative agriculture, I think that food apartheid, that even when we don't see it that way, that we have in many of our cities, we can start shifting the focus of how these communities can really participate actively in that regenerative movement, that we need to go back to the land, we need to go back to our ancestral practices, and we need to, because we know we carry that beautiful wisdom of our ancestors, but because we are assimilating a culture that doesn't belong to us, we are kind of we are a bit lost. And I'm talking in general, there are so many people in our community that they are connected, but in general, in the bigger picture, you see that our communities are struggling, and also they are in survival. So we need to move those communities to tap into the abundance that this land has to offer. For example, in the backyard is full of dandelion. At the beginning, I thought dandelion is a weed. Many people tells you that dandelion is a weed. I didn't know the amazing properties that the dandelion has, to purify your liver, to detox your liver, and all these things. And I've been just using all the wild plants that grows in this land, so that's the way I'm reconnecting and healing that connection to food, and the way we are trying to work with the disenfranchised community to restore that connection as well. So I think I was a bit long, but trying to make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to, again, encourage everyone, you know, if that inspired you with questions, please pop them in the chat at any time. And hopefully we'll have time at the end to come back to them. So moving along, thank you so much, Ariel. Moving along to Nina and Rajan. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. So please tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Rajan.
I'm Nina.
And we are both from Nepal. And we moved here to Canada in 2001. So about almost 20 years now. And, you know, I went to school here. And then in the meantime, you know, we got together with a bunch of friends. We opened up the Mint. So this is year 19 for us at the Mint. Not the best business to be in at this time of the pandemic, but you know. You know, when we first started the Mint, Nina, she's the best cook I've ever. She makes the best food. All of our recipes from South Asia, you know, that's all her recipes. She ran the restaurant, she ran the kitchen for a number of years until we had kids, and then, you know, there's a change in plans and all that stuff. And then, but all of those recipes were her family recipes, and a lot of them have not changed since day one. Like, it's, you know,
I still train cooks, so they are the same.
Yeah, they're still the same. I still eat their, you know, eat the food every day. And in many ways, we're lucky because we get to eat, you know, food from our culture, food from our country. So it makes us less homesick a lot of the time. And what else? Would you like to add anything?
No, it's a good opportunity for us to be here and able to promote our culture, our food, and share that with the community here.
Mm-hmm. And also at the Mint, you know, one thing that makes me really happy is in Nepal, we have a lot of festivals. We have a festival every week, if not multiple festivals in a week. And it's all about eating and drinking and meeting people, meeting friends, families, and stuff like that. And I get to, we have a lot of, you know, because of the Mint, we have this opportunity to meet people. We have the opportunity to be part of the arts and culture scene of Victoria. There's a lot of live events that take place there. So in many ways, you know, I kind of get to recreate and connect with the people here. And I get to recreate some of the, you know, festive atmosphere and the festive feelings. So it's a party every day.
And a party we hope to get back to very, very soon.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to ask both of you then, what is a childhood meal that you remember from Nepal? And how is it connected to a story for you of culture and community?
I think for both of us, it's the same food. So
yeah, it's momos. So momos are a kind of dumpling. It can be meat, it can be veggie or sweet as well, like dessert ones as well. And the best part about momos in Nepal is it's a family thing. It's a family event. And everybody helps in making it. So say, for example, in my family, if we say, okay, we're going to make momos, then that means Doesn't matter if you're 3 years old or if you're 85, you're helping, right? So I grew up in a joint family. So we had 23 people in the house when I grew up. So I remember even my most vivid memories of making momos when I was, still in my diapers, and I could. My job was to roll, roll little round dough things, and just make little dough balls and little things like that. And there was always 15, 20 people in the kitchen, everybody sitting in a circle, everybody having fun, playing pranks on each other. And you put kids in the mix, of course there's going to be pranks. So it's always been, momos have been not only the food but also the experience, also the sharing. And then every family has their own recipe, and every family, you know right away whose family is having momos, because you see all these people in their kitchen, and you see all this, there's so much noise and laughter. And I think same with her too, right?
Yeah, I didn't grow up in that big family though, but it's the same thing. Like whenever there is a momo event or party happening, so we all sit. It can be with the extended family too, when your cousins are visiting. So momo is the big thing. So we all sit together in a circle, and as he said, every family member will help. Doesn't matter if it's a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, they would sit together, or they can just play with the dough in the meantime when others are making momos. So it's kind of family, build a family connections, definitely. And it's very tasty.
And also I think even in the Nepali community here, if you're inviting any family to come over for momos, they can very well expect to be rolling some too. So it's definitely, it still is a very much a family event,
And momos is served with different achars. Not sure if you guys know what achar is. It's like in an Indian word, it's a chutney. It's kind of sauce. So different people would have their own choice of achars. But in my house, it's particularly made with a roasted tomato and with sesame, brown sesame achar. And one is a spicy just with green chili. Similar to yours.
I think our family didn't have sesame in the achar, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you paint such a wonderful picture. I absolutely love that family togetherness and the whole celebrating. That's just really inspiring. So you mentioned a little bit about, bringing that celebratory nature to this community through the mint. And I was just hoping to hear a little bit more about what inspired you to come from where you did and then jump into a new community and decide to open a restaurant as you did.
Right. Going back 19 years, it's a little bit vague memories now. But back then, when we first moved here, like Ariel said as well, a lot of what he said certainly resonates with us as well. When we first moved here, the food is different. Everything's different. And
not easily available. Even though if you want to make at home, the spices are not available. Even the vegetables, like you can't find the vegetable that we eat back home is easily available. So
So when we first, when we got together with our friends, we were like, oh, we gotta try this recipe today, but then you can't find stuff. And then after a while, we were like, oh, I think maybe it's, there was a couple of Indian restaurants back then. That was the closest we could get to, Nepali food. And then we were like, maybe it's time for a Nepali restaurant. And then we did a little bit of research, and there was one Nepali restaurant in Toronto, in all of Canada.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, this is it. And then, and here we are.
And I'm so glad I'm so glad you made that decision. Thank you both so much for sharing with us today. And so please do keep entering questions in the chat box as we move on to our last, definitely not least speaker for today, Angela. So Angela, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I'm by no means any professional in food or in any of that matter. I actually work as a case manager for the Victoria Immigrant and Refugee Center Society. I work under the program, the Newcomer Wraparound Settlement Program, and I help newcomer immigrants and refugees, individuals and families during their settlement period here in Canada, specifically in Victoria area. I myself am an immigrant. I came to Canada in 2016, and I'm a first generation immigrant with Filipino roots. So I'm from the Philippines. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Philippines. Yeah, so in my, how many years now? Years in Canada, I share the same sentiments as Ariel and sorry, the previous presenters. Sorry, I forgot your names. That it's really hard to find the ingredients here, even if you do find the recipes. You know a little bit about what these recipes are, but it's really hard to find the exact recipes, and then you eventually go out to substitution, and sometimes it's close, but it's not exactly the right flavor that you remember it to be. Because I personally even until today, or I appreciate and I always say to myself that there's nothing better than a mom's cooking. So that's something that I really miss from the Philippines, is that I miss my mom's cooking. I miss all the Filipino dishes that she makes, and there's some sort of regret there that I did not learn these preparations, these dishes before I came to Canada. But part of what interests me to be in here today is actually getting back in touch with with food in relation to my culture and roots, right? I'm interested in learning not just my own culture and dishes, but also other cultures, dishes and recipes, and as well as like food preparation and techniques. Because like I mentioned, I'm not any expert in any way about food, so I'm learning at that level. And also the food growing, since as the previous presenters also mentioned, that since it's really hard to find the ingredients here, I kind of like realized that why don't I grow my own ingredients? So it's a learning process, but it's something that I'm also interested in. I hope that I get to share with the newcomers that I serve at Verks as well. And it's these webinars, these community connections that I really appreciate, and I'm really happy to be a part of. Hopefully there's more. Like I agree with Ariel earlier. I hope there's more of these in the community, and I hope that especially during these times during the pandemic, that this could be a way to help people who are isolated be more less have that less feeling of isolation and more connected to different communities, not just their own, because it can be tough. But yeah, I hope that this is an opportunity for them to grow and connect to other communities.
Thanks, Angela. I I wanted to go back to something that we were chatting about on the phone when we were organizing this, and you were telling me about a particular ingredient from Filipino cooking that was special to you and that you've found here. But yeah, can you share that with us?
Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with the calamansi. It's a citrus fruit. It's like a crossbreed between a lime and a lemon. So it's a really tiny citrus fruit. And it looks like a lime. So it's green. It does come in like yellow greenish, and sometimes orangey, but it's really small. And it is a strong, like a balance of sweet, sour, and bitter. So like a balance of a lemon and lime. I had to do I had to do research about this. So like I said, I'm no expert. So calamansi is also known as calamondin. Apparently, I did not know that. It's a Philippine lime or a Philippine lemon. So it makes sense. It's a crossbreed between lime and lemon. So it is quite abundant in the Philippines. I remember growing up, we had a small plant of a calamansi tree, I guess tree or calamansi plant, and we would normally get our source of calamansi there. But since it's very abundant, it's really cheap to buy in the market. And similar to, I think, what Ariel mentioned, is that in my country as well, in the Philippines, it's very common to just go out in the market and everything's fresh. It's fresh from the farm, fresh from you have fresh meats, freshly cut, fresh fish, fresh seafood, and the Philippines being an island, an archipelago, seafood is also pretty abundant, and that's part of the things. That's partly of what I miss from Filipino food as well. But anyway, going back to the calamansi, it's actually used in cooking as more like a flavor to it. So it would be used the same way as a lemon or a lime. Since it's acidic, it can be used in marinating like meat. I guess a recipe that I remember using it with would be in beef steak, or we call it beefsteak. So in this, we marinate the beef in a mixture of soy sauce, some spices, and then the calamansi in there is to break up the fats and the meat, and it tenderizes it. And then so that's part of it. And apparently it's also a really good tenderizer. It has a very unique flavor. I can't really say. The calamansi, I mean, is that, like I mentioned earlier, it has really like a tangy, sweet, sour, and bitter mixture. It's not too bitter compared to a lime. So that's what I like about the calamansi and what I prefer with it over using the lemon and lime. Other than that as well, is that growing up, I remember that calamansi has also been used in some sort of a lemonade. I know that whenever like I get a sore throat, my mom would always mix up a warm calamansi juice with a hint of hint of honey. And it would be really soothing to the throat. And because it's both warm and like citrusy. But apparently calamansi is also very rich in vitamin C. So it's I know in the tradition, parents typically would serve it to their kids who have fever, who have a cold, and so on and so on. But a sort of like a modern or a new agey version of it would be like lemonade, right? Serve it cold, serve it with ice, and probably a hint of mint as well. I've tried something like that in the past. And one thing that I recently realized is that I could grow calamansi here in Canada. So that's something that I'm still in the middle. I'm still in the middle of learning and doing, more of an experiment. But we'll see how it goes. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I love hearing about different ingredients like that. That's just wonderful. And what it meant to you from when you were a child growing up in the Philippines. So, you know, if you were inspired, any of you on the call today, please do share your own thoughts and your own even recipes or ingredients in the chat with us as we move on to our question and answer time. I think we do still have a few minutes for that. So I haven't been looking at the chat, so I'll stop sharing now, and then we can go to any questions that we have for our speakers that were put in the chat. And as well, please do share your own share your own experiences of food and culture, and those memories, recipes. I love recipes too. So yes. So Anna, are there questions that were posted that we could go to?
Yes, we have one question from Karen. Is it difficult to find ingredients in Victoria? Is there more availability in Vancouver?
Anyone want to jump in there?
Yes, it is actually quite difficult to find a lot of things here. Vancouver certainly has a lot more as far as variety goes. It goes not only for spices, also for vegetables, produce, everything, a lot of things. Also, you know, we've also found, like when we were in Toronto, we found a lot more things are more available there than here. You know, probably because we're an island and we're much smaller as well. So
the community is smaller.
Community is smaller too.
When there are a lot of community, like a lot of immigrants from Nepal or India, then in those places, things are more available.
Yeah, I think it depends, as my friend from the main were talking about. It depends about the supply chain, you know, chain. So for me, for example, when I'm very interested in diasporic foods, I find, for example, I found like 2 years ago, the island African market, and I've been playing with so many different like spices that I didn't know existed. And I've been connecting more with my West African roots. And for example, there is one that you guys have to try. It's the Negro Pepper. It is so strong and it is so potent, and it is with so many medicinal like a characteristic that even for postpartum and even for the milk, yes, it's bringing to me. So it's like this.
Example. Oh.
So strong, so amazing. And my friend Puchari that is here, she can talk even about our discussion between fufu made in Cuba and the original fufu, you know, because even in the diaspora, like people, we trying to claim, okay, this is my fufu recipe. This is the original African recipe. And we are all the time like changing the way we do the things. And yeah, I'm just, as I said, growing up, food in Cuba was like a kind of scarce. When I was a teenager, that I have like that I understand about where food comes from, like how do you go through the cycle. But when I moved here, and seeing like the richness of our cultural diversity here in Victoria, even when Victoria is small. For me, when we talk about culture, it's huge, because in Cuba you have three main cultures. You have the Spanish culture, you have the African culture, and you have the Chinese. You know, so when I moved here, it was like a beautiful to keep engaging. And something that I would like to add, and this is a follow-up for this event, is like for us as newcomers, we don't know a lot about the indigenous food systems and how can we introduce some of the cultural food that we would like to have here and be in reciprocity with the land, because there are certain of our food that it can be considered like, okay, you're not respecting or acknowledging, like to introduce a food, you need to ask for permission. And you know, that certain, those processes that we still are learning, but our diverse community, we don't know a lot about food, indigenous food system. And I think we need to start merging like the way all these diasporic like cultures are inhabited in Canada. How can we merge, learn, support, and cooperate in like revitalizing the indigenous food system? Because what I didn't learn when I came here is like the indigenous people of this land and the Lekwenge speaking people, or the Songis and the Squamish Nation, they steward everything we see today as food. And when you go like foraging out there, they tended the land in a way that we today can go out there and you find food everywhere. In Cuba, we didn't have that. And here I'm learning that this landscape is so rich in so many food, even like power plants. Because in Cuba, when I talk about power plants, are the plants that are used for medicinal uses and also for spiritual uses. They are out there. You know, in Cuba, they just have it in certain place, and not everyone have access to those power plants, because you can like provoke harm to yourself. So that for me was mind-blowing, how indigenous people, they stewarded the land in a way that today we are still enjoying their food system, even though like all, you know, with the Indian art and the treaties and all these complexities that many people know, not many people understand, they still are doing that today.
Thank you. So wonderfully put. As we come to a close for our session today, thank you for your comments in the chat, and thank you for providing the name of that place to buy the wonderful spices, and the comments as well. Really appreciate that. We will be saving the chat as well and putting it with the recording, and putting it on the CR Fair website under food literacy. I wanted to take this last minute just to sincerely thank our guests for taking the time to be here, and for your incredible stories and sharing, and your personal experiences around food and culture. Greatly, greatly appreciated. And thank you all as well for saying that you hope this is the start of further conversations, because I absolutely agree. I hope it is continued conversations. So please do reach out and connect over food as we move forward with our days today. Thank you all so much. Appreciate all of you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.